make sure you keep your mind on the prize. Living this life, you know, you gotta definitely remember to always stay focused on the goal. You know, I like nice things just like the next man, but I always have to stay focused. But I never ever lose sight of my drive, my hustle, and my grind.
I'm a boss. I'm not with that. It's never nothing no more. Like, I look like a boss, I feel like a boss, I taste like a boss.
So gorilla.
Hey.
What's up, y'all? It's SP, CEO of So Gorilla Films Media LLC, SG Luxury Apparel, and So Gorilla Streaming Network. I came from nothing, y'all. I went from living on the streets, being in foster care as a little kid, no college degree, even being a convicted felon, to owning my own businesses, to becoming a successful black entrepreneur. Everybody wants the fancy cars, the big houses, live that life. But before you can achieve all this, there's a journey that comes with it. There's a reason why the lion is the king of the jungle. It's not about his size, because really the elephant is the biggest one in the jungle. But what makes the lion the king is the mentality. You understand? And that's how you have to be with business. It's not easy. You know, you got to withstand ups and downs, lefts and rights. It may seem hard, but you're going to get over it. The mentality comes first before all of this. Get your notepad, because there's going to be a lot of gems in this documentary. B.O.S.S, Black-owned success stories.
I'm up before the sunrise, first hit the block. I'm getting money. I'm getting money. I'm up before the sunrise, first hit the block. I'm getting money.
I'm headed to my second home, Atlanta, to sit down with some of my close friends that are also black entrepreneurs, to hear their journey. They got a lot of jewels to share with us.
I'm getting money.
My name is Gina Barboza, and I am the CEO of Balance and Acts Entertainment. It's an independent production company located here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm also the founder of a Young CEO, which is a young child evolving organization, a nonprofit to help underserved kids. But I'm originally from a little town in Massachusetts called Fall River, aka The Riv. So I decided to become an entrepreneur, I think pretty much early on in life. When you grow up dirt poor, single mom, welfare, Section 8 in the projects, you know you have to have your own because you can't depend on anyone. But at the same time, I knew I needed the stability of a corporate job, you know, every 2 weeks, paycheck. You know, coming from the projects, you still have your side hustle. It was just a matter of time before when does one become dissolved so you can focus full time on the actual being an entrepreneur. Listening to NWA and then being in LA and watching Dr. Dre drive by with Miss Chalet in the 6'4". They had this event in LA where like all the record labels were, so I attended it. And one of the guys at Sony asked me, he's like, so what do you do? And I said, I write. And I love interviewing people. I love getting to know somebody. He said, well, you should go talk to Suge Knight because he's starting a hip hop magazine. And I was such a fan of The Source. Like, The Source magazine was like the hip hop magazine before Vibe magazine came. And I went and talked to Suge. Now, mind you, I had no idea who he was. I knew about the artist, but I had no idea who was running the companies. I met Suge at the infamous studios where everybody recorded. He basically had me work inside the studio for like a month so I could meet all of the artists and interview them. And then after a month, I was getting frustrated because, they were all hitting on me. I was just getting tired of that. And so I called him up and I said, listen, I can't work in this environment. And I'm just trying to do my job. And he said, you passed the test. You're not a groupie. You can go to the office now. So he was testing me. He wanted to see if I was going to give in, and I didn't. I got into the office, and I had my own office. I got the salary that I wanted, and the journey was for me to start this hip-hop magazine called Death Row Uncut. You know, I got to interview people like Tupac and, of course, Dre, Snoop, the whole Death Row camp. Unfortunately, the magazine, which was called Death Row Uncut, never happened. And I ended up quitting because at that point, I probably needed to. So I left Death Row and I went and worked for an old school director actor named Bill Duke.
Is there a baby boy?
Ain't this a bitch? So you out there grinding, making some money for me, huh?
Yeah.
But being on the sets with Bill and getting that energy, that new energy of seeing story, you know, especially because I've always liked to write, come to life, that's when I knew, okay, wait a minute, what's this? And I knew that I was now going to parlay the music stuff into the film industry. And that's how I got into the production world. Working for Death Row Records and then working for Bill Duke definitely gave me two hats. And so in 1995, when I decided to leave LA and come to Atlanta, Georgia, the first place that I thought I could take my skill set was at Turner Broadcasting. So an old friend of mine from high school who just happened to be out here in Atlanta as well, living with a person from HR, and she looked out for me. 17 years later, I not only work for TNT, but we also work for TBS. The same position that Michael was in when he hired me, that's when I left Turner as. I became the director of production and music licensing. While I was in corporate, I started Balance and Acts in 2001, and I was working at Turner Broadcasting, and I knew I needed to also have, you know, my side hustle. And so that's when Balance and Acts was born. So the great thing about all the experiences that I learned from growing up where I grew up to time at Death Row, working for Bill Duke, coming to Atlanta, trying to survive here, and then everything that I learned at Turner Broadcasting, I infused into Balance and Acts. At the forefront, you have to be who you are, and you just have to use all of your experiences for your own business. So you need to know what you're worth. And sometimes it doesn't mean that you have a lot of money in the bank. You got to know what kind of assets you have, what kind of value you bring to the table, and look at even the things that you've created and make sure you put value to that. One of the beautiful things about So Guerrilla Films, my brother Segrin Phillips, you know, I met him when I was just getting out of corporate and didn't even know how to really shoot a camera. Like I played around with cameras because I love to shoot whatever. But he was already on it. He taught me. He wasn't afraid to share. He wasn't afraid to teach. You know, a lot of times people like try to hog stuff. And because of that, we grew. We said, I was a writer. I brought what I brought to the table. I came from corporate. I brought those skills to our game. You know what I mean? We started creating content. You know, he's already a business on his own. He's already established and a boss, you know, and we were able to share our smart resources, if you may. And so you really have to find your own path. And it was challenging at first, but I stayed true to who I am because at the end of the day, that's what's going to get you to where you want to be. And that's what's going to make you a successful entrepreneur because you're doing it your way. You can find me on Instagram at Gina Barboza. And if you go to my Instagram, you'll also see the link to Balance and Acts and also to my nonprofit, Young CEO. And for Balance and Acts, you can go to our website to see some of our content at www.balanceandactsent.com.
There's three things you got to remember when starting a business: relationships, education, and product. First, you have to understand that relationships are more valuable than money. So as you go on your journey, make sure you cultivate the right relationships that complement what you're trying to do. If you cultivate the right relationships, sometimes You don't even need any money for people to help you with your business. Education, you gotta educate yourself. Whether you're going to school or you're teaching yourself, educate yourself on what you wanna do with your business. Don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Don't spread yourself too thin. Start off with one thing, master that, then go to the next. And whatever you go to, make sure it complements what you're trying to do with your other business. And product. Without product, there is no money, there is no bag. You have to attract the bag, don't chase the bag. So make sure your product is the best it can be, and it'll sell itself. The money will be the least of your worries. Boss.
We are now living in the new renaissance of black entrepreneurs like never before. More and more black-owned companies are becoming successful every single day. But what happens when you become the first in your respective field? Stay tuned.